A man walked into a football stadium with friendship bracelets and his phone number on them. He got turned away. He went home. And then he did the bravest and most embarrassing and most human thing he could think of. He went on a podcast and told the entire world about it. And she heard it. And 3 years later, he married her. In a secret garden built inside the most famous arena in New York City, in front of 1,100 people, with Paul McCartney performing a song he hadn't sung in 62 years. With vows read from gold books, for 20 minutes each. With one of those vows including a song that nobody will ever hear, because the phones were gone, and the moment was theirs, and they chose to keep it. This is the complete story of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding. Every detail, from the beginning to the ring on his hand at training camp 2 weeks later. And some of what you are about to hear, I promise you, is more extraordinary than anything you have already read. Let's start before the wedding. Before the engagement. Before any of it was real to anyone outside the two people living it. July 8, 2023. Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City. The Eras Tour. 76,000 people in the seats. Taylor Swift on stage performing 44 songs. And somewhere in the crowd, a man named Travis Kelce, 3-time Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs tight end, one of the most recognizable athletes in America, was holding friendship bracelets with his phone number on them. His plan: get backstage, find the woman who ran the elevator, make the connection, hand Taylor the bracelet, introduce himself. The plan failed. She doesn't talk before or after shows. She protects her voice. Nobody got through. Travis Kelce went home with the bracelets and the disappointment and described himself afterward as, but hurt. And then he did the thing that changed everything. On July 26th, he went on New Heights, the podcast he hosts with his brother Jason, and he told the story. All of it. The bracelets. The phone number. The elevator. The failure. He put his heart on the air because there was no other path. Taylor heard it. She described her reaction later in one phrase: metal as hell. Not smooth. Not calculated. Metal. Brave in the most wonderfully unglamorous, unpolished way. And through mutual connections, Andy Reid knew Scott Swift, Taylor's father, and made the introduction. They started talking. Quietly. Before September 2023. Before the world knew anything. On September 24, 2023, Taylor Swift walked into Arrowhead Stadium to watch Travis play. She sat in a suite with Donna Kelce. The cameras found her in 45 seconds. America caught fire. And so it began. What followed over the next 2 years was the most publicly documented love story in the history of American pop culture. Super Bowls and Eras tour concerts and a Wembley stage entrance in a Victorian tuxedo and a lyric change in Argentina and a documentary and a proposal and a podcast episode and a wedding planning process so secretive it required watermarked invitations, NDAs, and a police memo that eventually told the whole world everything anyway. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go to August 13th, 2025 first. That is the day Taylor Swift appeared on New Heights as a guest. The Season 4 premiere. Nearly 2 hours of conversation, about the re-recorded albums, about the Eras tour, about the relationship, about a new album she was about to announce called The Life of a Showgirl. The most watched episode in the podcast's history. Millions of people tuned in. And Travis Kelce, for those entire 2 hours, was planning to propose in the backyard the moment the recording ended. He said it himself on the New Heights season finale a year later. During that recording, the entire time, I'm planning, I'm gonna ask this woman to marry me after this. The curtained windows. The crew outside, quietly setting up the garden. The ring in the house, an old mine brilliant cut diamond on a yellow gold band, antique cut, made by hand, designed with jeweler Kindred Lubeck of Artifacts Fine Jewelry. An antique diamond for a woman who re-records her own albums to reclaim her history. He chose it knowing who she was. After 2 hours of recording, he asked her a simple question. Do you want to go walk around the backyard and have a glass of wine? She said yes. Because of course she said yes. And then she walked outside and saw the garden. And saw why the windows had been curtained. And understood why he had been slightly off all morning. He got down on one knee. The palms were sweating. A few tears came. And he asked. She held his face in her hands. She said yes. He described himself afterward in one word: giddy. They kept it secret for 13 days. Two of the most famous people alive, engaged, and nobody knew. And then on August 26, 2025, they posted a 5-photo carousel on Instagram. Travis on one knee in a garden of roses. Taylor leaning in, hands on his face. The ring, clearly visible. Caption: Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. The post hit 1.2 million likes in 10 minutes. And then the planning began. The most secretive, most meticulous, most elaborate wedding planning operation in recent celebrity history. Watermarked invitations, each one individual, traceable, so any leak could be identified to its exact source. NDAs. A no-phone policy for all guests and staff. A wedding planner named Mark Seed, no Instagram, no public profile, a man who has never spoken publicly about a client in his life, contracted to build something impossible. The venue, Madison Square Garden. July 3, 2026. And the world found out everything anyway. Because permit filings are public record in New York City. Because trucks pulling up to MSG were photographed. Because athletes started booking nearby hotels. Because a Krispy Kreme truck parked outside and someone photographed it. Because the NYPD wrote an internal planning memo titled, simply, Taylor Swift Wedding at Madison Square Garden, and it leaked. The memo described everything. The schedule. The guest count. The timing. The street closures. 135 NYPD officers. MTA police. Amtrak police. West 31st Street between 7th and 8th Avenues, closed. And yet, the inside stayed secret. Nobody who worked on the transformation talked. Nobody who was in the planning chain described what they had built until the night itself. Here is what they built. Mark Seed turned Madison Square Garden into a garden. A real one. A secret garden, as guests called it, built on the arena floor where the Knicks play basketball. 5-story glowing trees, lit from inside, creating a canopy overhead. Real grass carpeting the floor. Thousands of flowers, a budget estimated at $3 million just for the florals. Every one of the 20,000 empty arena seats covered in white draping so that the space felt intimate rather than cavernous. Chandeliers lowered from the ceiling, rigging on cables, bringing the perceived height of the room down to something warm. Orange carpet on the entry staircase. The specific orange of the life of a showgirl. Her album about arriving. Her album about joy. She walked into her wedding on a carpet that matched the color of the chapter she was already in. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the cocktail hour began on the 6th floor, the concourse level of the garden. 1,100 guests in black tie, sipping drinks, looking out over Manhattan in the July heat. These 1,100 people had signed NDAs. They had surrendered their phones. They had come alone, no plus ones, unless specifically designated. They had done all of this because they wanted to be in that room. And the names in that room were unlike anything ever assembled in a private venue. Tom Hanks. Steven Spielberg. Paul McCartney. Stevie Nicks. Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes. Adam Sandler. George Stephanopoulos. Robin Roberts. Michael Strahan. Roger Goodell. Tom Brady. Chris Rock. Hugh Grant. Ethan Hawke. J-Lo. Gwen Stefani. Jimmy Fallon. Ed Sheeran. Jack Antonoff. Max Martin. Miranda Lambert. Kane Brown. Kelsey Ballerini. Maren Morris. Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco. Zoe Kravitz. Cara Delevingne. Suki Waterhouse. Gigi Hadid. Bradley Cooper. The Hyam Sisters. The SNL cast. Bob Iger, head of Disney. Andy Reid in a tuxedo from Peter's Clothiers in Kansas City, the shop that posted about it on Instagram and accidentally confirmed half the guest list. Graham Norton, who Taylor had publicly told on his own show, "You'll know. I was going to invite you to it." She kept the promise. And Abigail Anderson, the maid of honor. Taylor's best friend since high school in Tennessee. The girl named in the song, 15. The person who knew Taylor before any of this existed. Not a celebrity. Not a famous name. The person from before. At 5:30, the ceremony began. The guests moved from the concourse into the garden. And as they settled, something happened that almost nobody saw coming. No bridesmaids. No groomsmen. On Taylor's side, her brother Austin Swift, her man of honor. On Travis's side, Jason Kelce, best man. 2 brothers. That's all. And then the flower girls appeared. Jason's 4 daughters. Wyatt, 6. Elliot, 5. Bennett, 3. And Finley and Kelce, 15 months old, who Travis had seen on a video call weeks after her birth and called adorable on a podcast episode, and who was now toddling down the aisle of Madison Square Garden scattering petals. The officiant walked out. Adam Sandler, the comedian who appeared in Happy Gilmore 2 with Travis in 2025, who had earned the couple's trust, who brought the exact energy they needed, somebody who could hold both the gravity and the absurdity of the moment simultaneously. His advice to the couple: kiss every chance you have, every day. His performance, described by Andy Reid as phenomenal, by George Stephanopoulos as funny and touching. Then came the vows. Taylor and Travis each read from gold books. Real gold books, handcrafted, substantial, the kind of object that is itself a statement about permanence. And they each read for 20 minutes. 20 minutes each. 40 minutes total. Travis cried throughout. More than Taylor. The man who has played in 3 Super Bowls, who has caught touchdown passes in overtime with tens of millions of people watching, stood in a white tuxedo in a garden inside Madison Square Garden and wept through his wife's vows. An attendee confirmed it later. He was more emotional than she was. Taylor's vows included singing. She sang part of them. The most personal music she has ever made, not for an album, not for a stadium, not for the world. For one person in one room. Written and performed and gone. Nobody recorded it. Nobody will ever hear it. The phones were gone. And when both gold books were closed, Adam Sandler called it. The moment was sealed with what a guest described as a sweep you off your feet kiss. Then the reception began. And the reception was not a quiet dinner. Paul McCartney walked onto the stage. The former Beatle, 83 years old, at Madison Square Garden, where he has performed dozens of times in his solo career. And he played I Want to Hold Your Hand. The last time he had performed that song live was September 20th, 1964, at the Paramount Theater in New York. 62 years earlier. He was 22 years old, and the Beatles were at the peak of Beatlemania, and that song was changing American music history. He hadn't sung it live since. Until Taylor Swift's wedding. I Want to Hold Your Hand. The simplest love song ever recorded. In a garden inside a basketball arena. For 2 people who chose each other. Then Stevie Nicks performed. Robin Roberts, who was there, described it as really intimate. Stevie Nicks, performing live in a space so transformed it felt personal. The same Stevie Nicks that Taylor had once paid tribute to by wearing a shirt that said Stevie Nicks at an NBA game, blending her friend's name with the New York Knicks. Now returning the tribute in the most real way possible. The party ran until 4 in the morning. There were arcade games. There was a classic cherry red 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle Super Sport parked on the arena floor with a license plate reading, Just Anti-MRD. And there was a raffle. Pink tickets printed with the TNT logo. The prizes: Cartier watches, Chanel bags, Dior bags, and the Chevelle. Someone at Taylor Swift's wedding won a vintage car. Jackie Tranquil, wife of Chiefs fullback Kyle Juszczyk, posted a photo of her winning black Chanel bag with her pink ticket, winner. She went home from the wedding with a handbag she won at a raffle. Every guest also received a party favor, a white embroidered handkerchief, monogrammed TNT, dated July 3, 2026, New York City, and printed with 4 words from the song Blank Space. So it's gonna be forever. Originally a lyric written as ironic self-parody about the transience of celebrity love. Now embroidered on linen at a wedding that happened. The official announcement arrived at the same moment as rain. Taylor's publicist Tree Payne sent a press release to every newsroom simultaneously, and as it landed, the sky opened and rain fell over Manhattan. The marquee surrounding Madison Square Garden lit up in purple. 3 words: Just Anti-Married. 10 blocks north, the Empire State Building turned blue, something blue for the bride. On the street outside, hundreds of fans who would never get inside cheered anyway. The dress. The one nobody had seen. Taylor Swift wore custom Christian Dior haute couture designed by Jonathan Anderson. A jaw-dropping white gown with a long veiled train, as described by the one eyewitness who put it in words before his post was deleted. Travis wore a white tuxedo, also Dior. Custom Christian Louboutin shoes on both of them. Taylor's jewelry was Cartier. Their wedding bands were designed by Kindred Lubeck, the same jeweler who made the engagement ring, gold, hand-engraved, made with care. Travis's band was thick, chunky, simple gold. He wore it 2 weeks later walking into Chiefs training camp in Florida in Nike shorts and a duffel bag. The cameras caught it immediately. Clear. Unmistakable. The ring of a married man on the first day of his 14th NFL season. And in the week between the wedding and the training camp arrival, something else happened. Something small and perfect that told you more about who they are than all of the spectacle combined. On July 10th, 7 days after their wedding, Taylor and Travis attended the wedding of their friend Juju Smith-Schuster and Laura Kruk at the Ritz-Carlton in Laguna Niguel, California. She wore a $4,000 pink Marcarian gown. He wore a charcoal suit. They held hands walking in. And when the DJ played Swag Surfin', the Kansas City Chiefs' fourth-quarter anthem, the song that has been playing in the stadium on big defensive stops since Travis arrived, Taylor Swift got on that dance floor and did the dance. She has been doing that dance since January 14, 2024, when she did it with Donna Kelce in a suite at Arrowhead Stadium during the AFC Wild Card game with a temperature of -4 degrees outside. In a custom coat with his number on the front and back. Cheering for a man she had loved quietly for months before the world had caught up. 2.5 years later. Pink dress. California sun. Her husband beside her. Swaying together, matching each other's vibe, the way they always have. And someone caught it on a phone. And the internet saw 15 seconds of two people in love on a dance floor and completely, totally, helplessly lost it. There is one more thing. The thing that nobody asked enough about, but which answers every question about what kind of people these two are. The week of the wedding, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce donated $26 million to 20 charities. No announcement. No press conference. No naming rights. Just the money, distributed, confirmed quietly by a spokesperson who said almost nothing else about it. The organizations they chose: the Food Bank for New York City, the LA Regional Food Bank, Feeding America, Grammy in the Schools, Answer the Call, which supports families of police officers killed in the line of duty, Musical Mentors, After School All-Stars, Children's Mercy Hospital. The geography was personal. One charity in Cleveland, Ohio, Travis's hometown. One in Reading, Pennsylvania, Taylor's hometown. 2 in Kansas City. 1 in Nashville. 8 in New York. 7 national. The week that they spent an estimated $20 million on a wedding, they also gave $26 million to people who needed food. Nobody required them to do it. There was no audience for it. There was no Instagram post about it. It was simply what they chose to do with what they have, in the week that marked the most important moment of their lives. Rich Eisen, the NFL broadcaster who attended the wedding, said it simply. He said the flower girls with their petals and the Kelce family and the whole night was, "Pretty cool, dude. Pretty cool." He said it twice. He was right. Jason Kelce, when asked by reporters at a golf tournament a week later to describe his brother's wedding, the event where his daughters were flower girls, where he was best man, where he consumed, by his own admission, way over 15 beers, said, "It was a good time." And also, it's just two people in love who are super famous and a bunch of people really sharing it. That's the whole thing. That's every word you need to understand what happened inside Madison Square Garden on July 3, 2026. Two people in love. Who are super famous. A bunch of people sharing it. A bracelet that never reached her. A podcast where he put his whole heart on the air. A first game at Arrowhead. A first phone call answered with one word, baby. A proposal in a Kansas garden with sweaty palms. An orange carpet. A white dress. Gold books. A song nobody will ever hear. A sweep you off your feet kiss. And Paul McCartney, singing something he hadn't sung since 1964, because two people in love asked him to. The English teacher and the gym teacher. Married. And it was By every single account from every single person who was in that room, the most extraordinary night of their lives. Stay with us, because this story is only just beginning its next chapter. But before we leave the night entirely, there are things that happened inside that room that deserve their full moment. Details that got buried under the headlines and deserve to breathe. Donna Kelce was there. She was in the front of that garden in a gown, watching her younger son marry the woman who had been sitting beside her in a suite at Arrowhead Stadium the very first time the world noticed their relationship. September 24th, 2023. Donna smiling. Taylor beside her. Travis on the field below. From that suite to this garden. From that first game to these vows. From the moment a mother watched the cameras find the new woman in her son's life, and she just smiled, because she knew, to the night that smile became permanent and legal and sealed in a garden inside Madison Square Garden. The morning after the wedding, at the Macy's 4th of July fireworks event, someone asked Donna Kelce about the night. She had been awake since 4 in the morning. She had watched her granddaughters scatter petals down the aisle. She had heard the Gold Books. She had heard Paul McCartney. She had been there for all of it. And she said, "Magical, man, magical." 3 words. The man in the middle of them, that informal, warm, conversational bridge between 2 uses of the same word, is a woman being completely, exactly herself. Not performing a quote for the cameras. Not delivering a statement. Just saying what it was. Magical. Man, magical. On the same night, director Joseph Kahn, who has made some of Taylor's most celebrated music videos and who was at the wedding with Steven Spielberg, wrote on Instagram, "I told Latte many times it was like living in the internet. And AI would crack if it tried to render it. AI would crack if it tried to render it." The wedding was so simultaneously famous and intimate, so packed with recognizable faces and personal history and human emotion, that the most advanced technology in the world would fail to produce it. Because the pattern itself was unprecedented. And yet Taylor and Travis made every person in that room feel like they were at a backyard wedding. Robin Roberts said so. She said they had their neighbors, their high school friends. It was like any wedding you would attend. George Stephanopoulos said it was as intimate as it possibly could be, given it was Madison Square Garden. Eric Stonestreet said his favorite moment was simply that they created a place that they could have the normalcy that they deserve. The normalcy they deserve. 2 people who have lived their entire adult lives being watched, who cannot order food or walk through an airport or sit courtside at a basketball game without it becoming a news story. They built a space for one night where they were just a couple. Getting married. Surrounded by people who love them. And nobody had a phone. Not a single photograph from inside the ceremony circulated in the hours after the wedding. The phones worked. The NDAs held. The privacy was real. There will be official photos. Taylor said she will share them on Instagram. On her own time. In her own framing. The world will wait, because it has no choice, and because, honestly, the anticipation is its own kind of pleasure. When she posts the image of herself in the Dior gown, walking toward Travis in his white tuxedo, in the orange-carpeted, garden-transformed, 5-story tree-glowing interior of Madison Square Garden, that image will be everywhere within seconds. It will be iconic. People will analyze every detail of it for years. But she is not ready yet. And that is the point. This is what she said on the BBC when someone asked if The Life of a Showgirl might be her last album, if she might retire after getting married. She looked at the interviewer with what was described as genuine surprise and said, "That's a shockingly offensive thing to say." And then, "That's not why people get married. So that they can quit their jobs." That is the answer to every question about what comes next. She is not done. He is not done. He returned for a 14th NFL season. She has a 12th album in the world and a 13th surely building somewhere. The career and the marriage are not competitors. They are, by her own description, fueling each other. Travis said it plainly on the Pat McAfee show in March 2026 when he announced his return to football. "It's just amazing to see her keep going to the table. Keep finding new things to write about. Keep finding new melodies. And on top of that, still seeing her have that love and joy in what she does. She has the love and the joy. He sees it. And it reminds him that he still has his. They share the same love for what they do. They cheer each other on. The ring on his hand at training camp is not a distraction from the game. It is what happens when the game and the love exist in the same life without one consuming the other. And somewhere in Europe right now, Greece, maybe, or somewhere nobody has managed to photograph yet, two people are on a honeymoon that the world cannot track. Moving between places. Private. Finally, genuinely private. For a few weeks, before training camp and whatever comes next, they are just two people. No cameras. No NDAs needed. No police memo. Just the honeymoon the friend hip bracelet was always heading toward. The friendship bracelet. The podcast. The game in Kansas City. The first phone call answered with, "Baby." The sweaty palms in a Kansas garden. The orange carpet. The gold books. The song nobody will ever hear. That is where this story lives. In the moment that was too real to record. In the 20 minutes of vows. In the sweep you off your feet kiss. In Paul McCartney breaking a 62-year silence in a secret garden inside a basketball arena. The English teacher and the gym teacher. Married. On their honeymoon. With a vintage Chevelle somewhere in New York that somebody won at a raffle. And it is, by every account, just getting started.